Chapter 1: The Most Suitable Person. In Nisrael General Hospital, Amy Reed walked out of the operating room and pushed open the office door to see an elderly man sitting on the couch, waiting for her. "Grandpa," Amy called out obediently. Even though she was already exhausted, she still had a modest posture and did not show any displeasure towards this unexpected guest. Mason Reed crossed his hands on top of his cane. His face was not very good and did not immediately respond. Amy had already gotten used to Mason's attitude, so she didn't say anything and walked back to her desk. She was actually physically and mentally exhausted after the surgery, which lasted 20 hours, and she was only able to blink her eyes and fall asleep at the moment. Finally, Mason's posture dropped and he said, "I told you to quit your career as a doctor. We, the Reed family, can't afford you." Amy did not make a sound. She would have resisted, argued how much she loved the job, and pleaded with the old man who said no to give her a little freedom. However, each time only to get no end, but also to be crowned as a not something. Amy is really tired of dealing with it. Mason saw that she did not say anything. The anger in his heart was even more upward. However, thinking about the purpose of today's visit, Mason did not curse, but changed his tune. "You don't have to throw me such an attitude like I owe you something, Amy. The Reed family never owes you anything," Mason said. Amy bit her lip, and although she didn't want to answer, she really didn't want to hear Mason say something even worse, so she spoke meekly. "I know." From the time she was taken back to Reed's estate at the age of 7, she knew that these so-called blood relatives, who had gone to the trouble of getting her back, were just trying to get a good name and didn't really care that she was their blood relative. Early recognition of this reality, Amy will own a passion hidden away, no longer long for the hot affection. "Now that you know that, it's time for you to do something for the family," Mason said smoothly. Amy raised her eyes to Mason and realized that it was something that had been discussed at home recently. She originally thought that this kind of thing was not her turn, but now she thought that it was a hot potato in itself, and there was no way that the delicate ladies at home would agree to it. Mason said, "You know, the third son of Hayden family is of marriageable age, and the old Hayden has chosen our girl among so many famous girl, but Iris and Jayla have their own hearts, and Michaela is still young. So I think you are the most suitable candidate for the engagement with the third son of Hayden family." Amy smiled. There was no change in expression, only bitterness in her heart. Mason said, "How grand, clear the truth of Amy, inside only feel how ironic. The third son of Hayden family, 6 months ago because of an accident paraplegia, surgery or she and her teacher together to do. The 3 girls in the family, didn't they fall into her lap because they knew his inside story and didn't want to marry into the Hayden family? Why else would the Hayden family have sent word 3 days ago and Mason came to the hospital today to talk to her in person? It is also because the Hayden family is powerful, but also the top gentry, although in the public rich list can only be ranked 3rd. But the gentry are clear. This is the Hayden family low profile. If the true wealth of the exposure, only fear will be the world's richest. The Reed family is also on the rich list, but only at the bottom. For the Hayden family, the Reed would naturally prefer to marry a girl they really love." Amy did not make a sound for a long time, which is undoubtedly consuming Mason's patience. If placed in the past, he must have been sternly reprimanded, but today is still in patience. See, Amy half a day did not agree. Mason can only light up his advanced thought conditions. "I see you really like this work. So, you married into the Hayden family. I will not have any more comments." Amy finally got some reaction, raised her eyebrows to look at Mason, and finally said, "Thank you, Grandpa." This was then considered a promise. Mason grunted coldly. His attitude took a sharp turn and ordered Amy, "Married into the Hayden family, you should not forget your roots. You are the daughter of the Reed family. Everything must be considered for the Reed family. Your parents, your great-uncle and sister-in-law, and your brothers and sisters. You must always remember them and help them at all times." Amy finally could not help but sneer in her heart. She is still 8 sticks and the Hayden family cannot hit the border, Mason already thinking about these. Amy just wanted to get rid of her profit-oriented grandfather, so she nodded and said, I understand. In the final analysis, when the time comes, it is up to her to decide whether to do it or not. Mason saw that Amy did not have any strange thoughts, so he explained a few more things and left. The office finally quieted down, and Amy held her forehead, her eyes full of bitterness. After a long pause, Amy took off her white coat and walked out of the office.